Hello everybody, welcome back to Rain and Pours. I'm Mitch and this is the 2024 Earth Day collab. So our challenge for this year was to find a thrifted piece of art or a piece of art that we didn't like and we have to reuse it or recycle it somehow. So I was lucky enough to score this fantastic little framed canvas. It's a canvas wrapped over a wood board and it was framed, and this was on sale in our Vinnie stores here in Australia for $4 and I actually got it for $2 because the canvas has a little bit of chewing gum on it. So I'll tackle that in a second. The first thing that I needed to do was to remove the canvas from the frame and take out all of the staples from the back so that I can put more in when I'm ready to do that, ready to reattach the frame. So you just saw me using some pliers there to pull that out. Now my original idea was to remove the actual canvas from the wood frame as well, and I decided against that. So you saw I pulled a staple out there and I'm just adding that back in with my staple gun, and this is how I will attach the frame at the end as well. And the Earth Day collabs are always really fun because they challenge us to think in different ways about our planet and what we can do to keep it going and to save it, essentially, because we want to preserve it for future generations. So this is the chewing gum that I was talking about. So I just grabbed a little bit of sandpaper to see if I could sand it off because it was dry, and that didn't work. So I grabbed some isopropyl alcohol on some paper towel and I was able to rub that all off and everything is as good as new. So I was happy to proceed from here. Now, because the canvas was actually like a vinyl printed canvas, I knew that paint wouldn't really stick to it if I did a fluid art painting on top. So instead what I've done now is I have just grabbed some white acrylic paint and painted that over the top, sort of like a layer of gesso. I didn't have any gesso, so I thought this would work just as well. I've painted the tops, I've painted the sides, and I did 2 coats just to make sure everything was nice and covered. So you can see me just finishing up that 1 coat there, and I tried to get it as smooth as possible. Now I'm going to go through all of the colors that I used. So I've got Matisse Permanent Violet, I've got TLP Groovy, I've got Matisse Cadmium Yellow, Amsterdam Azo Orange, and there's a whole heap more colors that I'll be using. I know I've got Matisse Indigo there, or Midnight Blue, it was possibly that as well. So if you want to have a look at all the products that I'm using, just pause the video on that picture and you'll be able to see them all. And what I've done is I've mixed up my paints for a swipe painting, and I've used Liquitex Gloss Medium. It's the lime green label. I find that works best for me for these style of pours. And I've mixed that up with 50-50 Liquitex Gloss Medium and Australian Floetrol. I don't actually think it is that much. I think I used a lot less Australian Floetrol in this one. And the reason I've used that mixture is so that I get some really nice cells. So I've mixed up all my colors and my background the same. And with my This Little Piggy, I just dissolved that in some 50% gloss gel, 50% water to make myself a little bit of a pigment with a binder. And then I added my pouring medium to that. Now I'm just using some damp paper towels, and the paper towels that I really like to use, they have ridges and lines on them so that when you're swiping everything out, you can see that all of those ridges and lines come out in the painting. And what I do like to do as well is when I'm cutting my paper towel, I will cut some with the direction of the stripes and some against it. So the ones that are against it won't actually have the lines in the swipe. So you can see at those bottom ones there, you can actually see those lines coming through. And the ones without it will be missing those lines. So I do find that mixture of using both really handy. So you could see my little clapper there if you caught that split second. That's so I can synchronize all my cameras. And I've just gone on with my TLP Groovy first. Now I'm doing the Matisse Cadmium Yellow. The Matisse Cadmium Yellow is an opaque color, and I've gone with that so that I've got some really nice depth and solid color in the painting. And the idea that I'm going for from here, swiping both sides, I wanted this to almost look like reflections at twilight, and almost like a city on the edge of a lake or something like that. Think of all those famous cities that are on the edge of a river. And it gives me sort of like Tokyo vibes, or one of those Shanghai, Singapore, all of those cities with bright, vibrant lights that reflect across the water. So that was the vibe that I was going for with this. Now I've got the Amsterdam Azo Orange on my paper towel there as well. I keep forgetting what it's called. And I'm just swiping these colors over the top of each other until I get a look that I like. So I'm going back in with the groovy, going back in with the yellow, with the purple, some of the base color as well, getting that in there, and just fiddling around with some composition that I like. So I'll let you enjoy this while I continue painting. And if you do want to buy any of the Little Piggy pigments that I'm using, you can get those at fluid-art.co, and you can see off in the corner there, I've got my little spatulas that I use from there, my stir sticks. They're absolutely amazing. And then to develop those cells and pop bubbles, I use my little chef's torch, and that's going to break the surface tension and allow those bottom colors to peep through. So there you go, just going over the top of the whole thing. You want to pop any of those bubbles as they will be visible in the final piece. So yeah, that's the first layer of swipes done. So I let this dry and come back the next day, and you can see how shiny and glossy that is. This doesn't have any varnish on it. That's just the Liquitex gloss medium doing its thing. So now I'm using Matisse Midnight Blue, and I've just mixed this with a little bit of gloss gel medium, I believe. I mixed that off camera. And I've just put that on a tile and blended that all together, and I've done that so it forms a nice thick paint. And now I'm using a fan brush to brush this on. Now this brush was actually one of the ones that I used to use for cake decorating, so I've repurposed that for my art now, and just brushing that on in various directions and varying amounts of depth in the color as well. So might look a bit weird now, but wait until the end, trust the process. Now I'm using my Fluid Art Co scraper here. I don't remember which one this is, but it's that little triangle trapezium shaped one. And I'm using the smaller side first to put in some little textured bits of detail, and you can see it gives a different look to the fan brush. And then I go in with the longer side as well, I believe. So I'm just using my hairdryer to dry that really quickly. And you can see that it's dry because it goes from that really shiny glossy finish to a matte finish. And then what am I doing now? Okay, so over the top of the Midnight Blue, I'm using my fan brush again with some glow in the dark pigment. So this pigment will react under UV light, and it will hold a charge as well. So I'm just brushing that on. I've just mixed it up with some gloss gel and brushing that over the top of the darker part of the blue, so that way during the day you'll see the dark part of the blue, and at night time it should glow really softly with that glow in the dark pigment. And I've used a blue glow in the dark pigment as well. So again, just drying that with the hairdryer, making sure everything's ready before I move on to the next step. And I pretty much did all of this in one day. So you can see the UV reactive stuff there, and I will turn the lights off a couple of times so you can see everything. The TLP Groovy does glow under UV light as well, so if you do have a UV light, that's awesome. Now I'm adding in some gold details with that palette knife again, and I'm using the longer side for this because I wanted that to be really reflective and really shimmery. So if you were worried about how much dark color there was, don't worry, because that's all gone now, and you just see the ends of that color. And I do believe I go in with some other colors now, and I'm just adding in some texture. I really wanted this piece to be textured because nothing in life is perfectly smooth. So adding that in, just curling it up on the end of the palette knife and dabbing that on. And then I'm doing that with all of the colors that I used in this piece. So I've got that Midnight Blue, that's adding a little bit of definition in there. I did some crisscrosses going in with the Azo Orange, and then I'll do that for the Cad Yellow and the Groovy as well. And I also used some of the background color to tie everything together as well. So really happy with how this piece is going so far. And at this point I was like, oh, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing something that's going to look good in the end? And for the final product, I do believe I did a pretty good job, and I'm very happy with it. So now I'm mixing in my This Little Piggy Groovy with some gel medium, and my overhead light overheated and I couldn't get it to work again. So it's going to be a little bit dark for a little bit, but I've mixed up that Groovy. I've also got I mixed in some Matisse Cobalt Teal with that gloss gel, and just used the back of another spatula to press down some different shapes and patterns. So I'm going in with the Groovy next, and this sort of reminded me of like a well-traveled path. They almost look like footsteps or animal tracks in the sand somehow. Then I used the Matisse Permanent Violet as well, and again going in with sort of different shapes and different strokes, making everything look a little bit linear and adding more texture and dimension. And now let's turn off the lights and have a look what it looks like in the dark. So you can see all of that beautiful color glowing there. Really, really happy with that. And while I've got the lights off, I'm just painting on some more of that glow in the dark pigment so that you can see, and I can see where I'm painting that on. And so I'm trying to make everything not so linear. I didn't want everything to be exactly the same length or in the same position or exactly parallel to each other or opposite each other. So doing some longer strokes, shorter strokes, and you can see it does have a very gentle glow once the lights are off and the UV light's off. So glow pigments work best when they are charged. So charge them in the sun, charge them with a UV light. I did wash off my my brush there, and I was just drying it with the hairdryer. I thought I'd kill two birds with one stone there. Getting all that glow pigment dry, and now for the final and fun part. This is adding the final bits of texture and bling to this piece. So this was meant to represent the shimmering lights across the surface of that water that I was talking about earlier. So I have my gloss gel off to the side here, and I was mixing in some of that glow pigment that I was using, and now I'm using a spatula just to apply that gloss gel to my painting. Now it'll all make sense in a second. So this isn't how it's actually going to look. It's going to dry clear, but this is going to act like glue. So if you've watched one of my previous collab videos, I did a really nice big blue and black piece that's now hanging up in my living room because it's my most favorite thing I've ever created, and that was sort of a bit of the inspiration for this piece as well. And now I'm adding crushed glass and little crushed gems and diamonds and things to it. Just the acrylic diamonds and things you can buy from cheap shops here. And pushing that into the gloss medium. And the reason I've used gloss medium is, one, because it's nice and thick and it has body. Two, it's an artist quality product. So as this dries, it's not going to shrink or crack or yellow as quickly as other products would. And it's going to dry perfectly clear, so you can see all the way through it. Now I am sprinkling on some crushed glass flakes. Now I do advise wearing gloves doing this. I was very lucky I didn't cut my hands, but these glass flakes are incredibly sharp, and the first time I did it I wore gloves, and it was just much easier to get everything off your hands without worrying you're going to cut yourself. Now I didn't apply anything to the bottom to glue this down because I'm going to use spray varnish as a glue. So I've got my Micador Artist Quality spray varnish in a can here, and I've got a gloss varnish. I like a nice glossy finish, and I just went over my entire painting. Now normally you would do one really thin coat and then do a couple of thinner coats over the top. I wanted to do a really nice thick coat so it sets everything into the painting, and then I don't have to worry about using an adhesive. The glass isn't going to fall off, it's going to soak in between all the bits of glass. And here is the final product. Super happy with this. I added it back into the frame, just used my staple gun to staple everything back together, and I'm so happy with how this turned out. So you can see that glass is stuck fast. Once everything was dry, I did tip it upside down and tapped off any of those crystals that may have been loose or not stuck down properly. It's got a perfect glossy finish over the top, and it looks phenomenal in the dark as well. I don't have a final shot of that, but this is what it looks like, and I love the texture of this. So I'm so happy to have been invited back for the Earth Day collab in 2024. Please stick around and watch Shelee Carruthers from sheleeart. She's one of my best friends and she's an amazing artist. Can't wait to see what she creates. She's wrapping up our collab. So if you've liked what I've done, don't forget to like and subscribe. Please check out everyone else in this collab, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.